Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to compassionately break up with a fearful avoidant attachment style. So this is a series I'm doing. It was actually based off of a question I had from one of our members who basically said, how do you have like a nice breakup with somebody else? And I was like, wow, I do a lot of talking about how to heal from a breakup, how to overcome a breakup, what to do if you're going through a breakup, or if you're not sure whether to break up or not, but I never talk about like how to do the breaking up. So love this topic. I'm creating a series. You'll see, if you haven't already, that there's a video version of this for all four attachment styles, the 3 insecure, and then obviously are securely attached. So these are going to be 6 major tips for how to compassionately break up. And they're going to be different for each attachment style. There may be a couple in common, but you're going to see some really specific ones to help, on the receiving end, just so that you can feel good. Because I think a lot of the times when we go through a breakup, if we're doing the breaking up, we can feel so like guilty after, we can feel concerned about the person we like once really loved and cared for, and probably still do very much love and care for. Just because we broke up doesn't mean that that necessarily goes away. So, we sometimes want to be able to orchestrate the best sort of version of the breakup. And then also, it really helps us if we do it properly and effectively to have that closure, to be able to move on, to not have a heavy heart around it. So we're going to talk about all this stuff. If you want to do any work around breaking up, I have 2 amazing relationship courses related to this. Number 1, how to repair any relationship if you're not sure whether or not you want to break up. And it's really in depth, very intense, lots of good information in there to really salvage anything. As long as you're checked in with yourself, you're tuned into yourself, you'll see that that's a big part of the course. You're aware of your boundaries, your standards, your non-negotiables, you're being fair to yourself. And that can actually help us with sort of item number 1 here, which is check in with your deadline first. I always say to people, if you're going through a breakup or you're thinking about it, pour yourself into it first, as long as there's no like abuse or anything like that. If it's just on the rocks, problems, challenges, pour yourself into it. Do everything you can to salvage it if you feel motivated to, but set a deadline. Don't just do that forever. Do it for 2 weeks, do it for 2 months, based on like the longevity of the relationship and the investment you already have in it. That way, if you decide, no, this is not working, you can walk away guilt and regret free. So you can check out that course, How to Repair Any Relationship, or if you're working on like healing your heart after a breakup, we have a very in-depth How to Heal from a Breakup course also available. So I'll put a link in the description box below if you want to check out either of those courses, and a 25% off discount next to it. So you can go through the All Access Membership Pass. It is for 3, 6, 12-month bundles. So you can check that all out. And then you have the opportunity to really like do some of that work, heal, and have the closure and move on. So number 1 really is that like check with your deadline, like put a deadline on something, pour yourself into it, make sure that you feel good about it so you can move away guilt and regret free. Number 2 is be clear about your reasons why. Communicate them to yourself very specifically. Why was the relationship not working for you? Why do you want to leave the relationship? And what that helps you to do is have that closure and certainty in relationship to self. And if that comes up in the breakup conversation, to be very clear. And the more clear and specific we are, the less personal it is for somebody else. If we're like, it's not working, then somebody's going to give all the meaning that their previously programmed imprints are going to contain. So if they believe they're unlovable or not good enough or unworthy, they're going to project that meaning onto why you broke up. If you say, hey, I broke up because, there was a lot of volatility in the relationship and I'm really sensitive to fighting and I couldn't do that anymore out of respect to myself and out of just like boundaries for my own life. And if you share that specifically, now it's about the arguments, it's the behavior in the relationship dynamic. It's not about the person being unworthy of love or unlovable. So you really want to get clear about your why so you can articulate it well for your own closure and for the other person. Number 3, give valuable feedback. Fearful avoidance, they really tend to they can be defensive when in a relationship and when there's wounds and stuff like that. But fearful avoidance tend to really want to like work on themselves and learn and grow. Even if they're, fearful avoidance who are still in that volatile dynamic and situation, they don't have, a lot of modeling or tools to heal yet. Like if they've never really learned about attachment styles or learned how to regulate their emotions or know what their boundaries are. If you say to them in a very honest way, this is my feedback for you. And if it's coming from a compassionate like tone of voice and you're just being upfront, they tend to actually value that later. They may be a little touchy in the moment, but they tend to take that with them later and be like, wow, because they tend to self-observe a lot. It comes with it sort of goes hand in hand with being very hypervigilant, is there's a little bit of extra like self-observation that naturally comes with fearful avoidance as well. So they can be defensive at times, but they really do tend to be impacted by truth. So, some of the big things we'll see for why people leave relationships with FAs are that there's emotional volatility. There's a roller coaster all the time. And securely attached people will tend to leave from that fairly early. DAs will tend to be pushed away by that. And anxious preoccupied may sort of be on the roller coaster for a while, but there can just be some kind of splitting up that's on a trajectory towards taking place if one or both people aren't really doing the work on themselves to heal. So if you're really honest about that, or whatever else it might be, and you say, this was like a boundary violation for me, it wasn't okay, it's hurt me, I need to be able to move on, it's that may be something that can really benefit them later and long term. Number 4, be as transparent as possible. This is huge for fearful avoidance. When you're really clear and transparent and honest with what you're feeling, when you've been feeling it, since when, why, what's going on inside of you, they won't give all the painful meaning like we talked about to situations. And because FAs tend to have many core wounds, it really saves them from having to, project all those core wounds onto the situation. So it can be really big for closure. Number 5, you can also help them to equilibrate the core wound, I am unworthy. This tends to be a really big pattern for fearful avoidance after a breakup. And sometimes they can go into sort of these self-sabotaging storms or spirals post-breakup. And it's interesting because they'll usually like tell themselves like, I'm fine, I'm all good, I'm totally okay. But then they can sometimes have like self-sabotaging behavior. Maybe they drink more, maybe they are getting into more arguments with people, maybe they're more angry, maybe they are pushing people away more, blocking people out. Whatever their painful coping mechanisms are tend to sort of show up more after a breakup, even though they convince themselves, I'm fine, it doesn't matter. Sometimes they'll really hurt too, but like a lot of the times they'll sort of shut down initially. And if you help them to see like you are worthy, you're an amazing person at your core, I think you're incredible. I think that there are painful patterns that sometimes get brought into the relationship dynamic that weren't working, but these are some things X, Y, and Z, whatever it is that's honest and coming from you, that I really appreciate about you. And like, I know that you're going to get through this, and I know that you're going to have a loving relationship long term, but this is my honest feedback about why it wasn't working. Like if you're able to sort of package that, it gives them that clarity, transparency, certainty. They don't project painful meaning onto the situation. And it gives them that like, oh, this is what I have to work on within myself. And oftentimes, though that may take a little bit of time to take hold, eventually it tends to. And that may sort of spark them in a new direction. Now, let me be clear. You're not responsible for anybody else's feelings, nothing like that. But at the end of the day, when we love and care for people, it makes us feel lighter a lot of the time if we can do things that we're going to be doing, AKA a breakup, in a more compassionate manner that can be more useful, beneficial, and give both parties a greater sense of closure. And this brings me to number 6, which is get really clear, sit down, and decide what boundaries best work for both of you in order to heal. Have a conversation ahead of time. Whatever we don't make clear and transparent and conscious and intentional ahead of time, we learn the hard way instead. So we're not going to know everything. We may say we want no contact, but then we may miss the person and want to check in 2 months later. But do your best to establish boundaries so that you can have respect for one another's boundaries. You have clarity, and there aren't these like unwritten, undisclosed expectations bubbling beneath the surface that can cause more pain and suffering to occur once a breakup has happened. So those are my 6 tips for today. Thank you for watching. Please, if you have more questions about this or about any topic in general, put them in the comments below. We have 2 systems always happening. I go in every couple weeks or so and I scan through the comments and see like what's the feedback, what's the information. I have a team member also who's amazing, who checks in with everything and who creates like detailed summaries of topics, questions that people are asking. So it gives me a clear idea of which way to move in terms of creating more content for you guys. So let me know, be vocal, put your stuff in there. I am listening. And thank you so much for being here and for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you in the next video.